guys, I just wanted to say thank you for having patience while I got this tutorial recorded. I also want to let you know that I am not a Photoshop guru. I really do not know much technically about Photoshop, but I've messed around enough with it to know what I like to use for my images to make them look a certain way. So if you're looking for someone who can explain all the technical sides of Photoshop, I would highly recommend like a YouTube channel like Flern. If you know of any others, go ahead and comment below. I'm also open to ways of doing things. So if you see me doing something and you're like, hey, you know that she could do that a lot more efficiently or whatever it may be, also feel free to comment below. But anyway, I hope this video helps you a little bit with your editing, and hopefully it will help you achieve a little bit of the look that you're looking for. So first things I want to just kind of mention is that, as you can see, I have a nice blurry background. This kind of editing style really doesn't work with images that don't have the nice blurry background. So I would highly recommend trying this on an image where you have that blurred, background with just kind of the person as the focal point. Because you probably will try some of these things on an image if it doesn't have the blurred background, and it will not look how you want it to look. So anyway, just wanted to kind of preface with that. Also, I want to let you guys know that I do not do detailed work in my videos. If you're anything like me, I really don't want to sit for an hour and watch someone do all of the detailed work. I really just want to know, like, what are the things you do that can help me, and then I can figure out how far I want to go with it from there. So I try to make these videos fairly short and to the point, with not a lot of you just sitting there watching me do detailed work. So anyway, this image is straight out of the camera. And I, first of all, want to really work on her skin tone. So as you can see, there's a lot of kind of green casting on there from the plants. By the way, this was a crappy tree in our backyard. And I'm telling you, you can make most any area look really good if you just have a little bit of imagination and just kind of, photograph everything else, or make sure you're not photographing anything else into the image. So yeah, but this is like an old tree in a garden bed, and I just happened to want to play around with my camera, so she went and posed under the tree for me. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to only look at her skin tone. This is probably not the way most people do it, but for me, for whatever reason, it just really helps me. So I'm going to only look at her skin tone right now, and I know that I want to brighten it and I want to add some warmth to it. So I'm going to go to my exposure and bring the exposure up in my global adjustments to where I like the creamy kind of skin tone. And then there, by bringing the exposure up, there's not as much green casting in it. You can still see some on her cheek. I'm not going to get into the video right now of how I remove that, but you can basically take an adjustment brush with a bit of magenta in it. So you can go to the tint slider and bring that up, and you can just kind of paint over it, and it will cancel out that green. If it's more yellow, then you would do that with blue. I want to add a little more warmth to her skin tone, so I'm going to go to my temperature slider and bring that up just until I'm comfortable with her skin. So I think right about 6,500 is where I like it. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, and it is like one of the first steps I do, is because I kind of build off of this edit, is I'm going to go into the adjustment brushes. I'm going to make sure that my feather slider, flow slider, and density slider are all at 100. I just feel like that gives me a really good kind of flow for the edit that I'm doing. It just is softer, I guess you could say, the brush strokes. So I'm going to actually go down to clarity, and I'm going to bring this all the way to -100. And then I'm going to go into my blacks, and I'm going to bring it up really high. Probably I'll start at 100 and I might lower it, but we're just going to start there. And what this does is it just gives you like that really beautiful kind of matte look on the image. I don't really want to get it on her because I want to kind of have this matte look and then her pop out from that. So I'm just going to barely go in. If I wisp her hair a little bit, I'm fine with that. But I'm just going to go in here and just kind of hit these edges a little bit. I'm going to leave some of these leaves open. And now I don't want it this bright, so I'm going to bring the exposure of that brush down just a little bit. So I brought it down to -1.90. Yeah, but it just kind of gives it that matte look so that your subject pops out from it. And just basically, I'm not going to sit here and touch up all those spots, but you want to leave your subject like maybe a little bit of, you know, the leaves or whatever, leave those free from the matte. And I'm going to take my eraser actually and just kind of go in here and remove some of that off the flower in her arm right here. And you can just go in and touch that up, you know, remove a little off their hair, whatever it may be. Okay, so yeah, I think these leaves closer to her, I'm going to not have as much matte on them. So I'm going to take a little bit of that off. Actually, I might add a little bit of matte, so let's go back to my brush. And I'm just going to bring my blacks down a little. Oh, shoot, I want to create a new brush, sorry. So I'm going to bring my blacks down just a little bit and just lightly touch the leaves, just so they have a little bit of a matte feel. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do some dodging and burning, and then we'll move into like actual Photoshop. So I'm going to create a new adjustment brush, and I'm going to reset my sliders here. I'm going to bring my exposure up pretty high, and I'm just going to go in and highlight the parts of her face and hair that are highlighted in her dress. So just kind of go along any highlighted spots you see. Now, obviously, people are going to be a lot more detailed when they're doing an actual image, but like I said, I just want to kind of hit the spots and show you. Just do a little bit on the flower, some around her neck, and go over here, and a little up here. So that's her skin with the highlighting. I'm going to bring it down the exposure just a little. I just don't want it that intense. So bring it to like right there. And then I'm going to create a new brush, reset my sliders again, and I'm going to bring the exposure down. And that's where I'm just going to go in and just kind of hit these shadowed parts. Again, you can be really detailed with this. I'm not going to be, but you can just go in there and kind of hit all of those darker areas. And I just do it dark right, you know, like heavy-handed right up front, so then I can just slide that slider back up a little bit. So I'm just going to bring some of that darkness out of there. Okay, now this is bothering me right here. Her cheek still has a little bit of the like yellowish green tint. I'm just going to show you really quick what you can do. Go to your new adjustment brush and you can reset your sliders. And then I'm going to try a little bit of magenta by going to the tint and bringing that up a little bit. And I'm just going to go in there and kind of paint over her cheek. Now, it's not really making a difference, so I'm going to switch to or bring some blue into that a little bit. And I brought just a tad bit of blue in, and it kind of canceled out that that yellowish green. And I think I'm going to also bring the exposure down just a little bit. Now I'm going to click here, the one on her cheek. Where's that one? No, I'm on it. Yeah, okay, so, all right, so we brought the exposure down. We've kind of dodged and burned. I'm gonna go in here. Now I would zoom in normally, but I'm just trying to get through this really quick for you guys, but you can zoom in here and just take a new adjustment brush, reset your sliders, and then just go in also here, and you can lighten the eye. Hit new brush, and you can bring the exposure down, and you can go in and just kind of darken the lashes and the eyebrows. And then zoom back out, and you can, let me get zoomed out here. You can see if you like it or not. So you can go and kind of zoom out and be like, ah, that's a little too heavy-handed, or whatever it may be. And I'm actually gonna take the overlay off for just a second. So then I'm gonna bring on the eye right here, I'm gonna bring that exposure down just a tad. It's a little too crazy. Okay, so the next thing that you can do is you can take a new adjustment brush and reset everything again, bring your exposure up, and I'm going to go in and just kind of highlight the leaves a little bit, give them a little bit of depth in there. So just find the, you know, like the highlighted spots on the leaf, and just kind of go in and highlight those areas. It's really easy to do. Obviously, again, I just want to reiterate that I am not being detailed with any of this. You can adjust the exposure up or down, whatever you feel. And you can also create a new brush if you want to have like different levels of dodging and burning on something. For example, this side over here, I want to add just a little more brightness, so I'm going to create a new brush and bring the exposure up just a tad. And then just go in and hit those areas. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and bring this image into Photoshop and bring that exposure down on some of those just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and open. Okay, now that we're in Photoshop, I am going to crop this down a little bit, right about there. And I'm just going to mess around with the colors. So I'm going to see if I want this background just a little darker. So I'm going to take the marquee tool and draw it around her. And then I'm going to hit feather, and I'm going to put 400 as my feather radius, and that's just going to kind of feather whatever I'm doing, so it's not like this harsh line between what I'm doing and the image. So I don't want this to affect her, so I'm going to go up to select and hit inverse, And as you can see, I now have the marching ants around the image and right here. So anything I do will not affect her. So I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Curves, and I'm going to hit OK. I'm just going to go to the RGB channel and bring down the center. And then I think I want to brighten her up a little bit, so I'm going to take the marquee tool again, just kind of highlight it around her face, hit feather at 400, and I'm going to go to New Adjustment Layer, Curves, and I'm going to bring up the center. And I want to add just a little contrast on her skin, so I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. And then that's a little too much, so I'm just going to bring the opacity of that layer down a little. Okay, so now with this, I'm going to just mess around with coloring. So I kind of want to add a little more warmth into the top part of the image. So I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and I'm going to go to Color Balance. And I'm going to select highlights because there's quite a few highlights up here, and I'm going to bring some yellow into that. It's a little much. So I'm going to hit on this white square, I'm going to hit Command I, and that's going to hide what I just did. And then I'm going to take a white brush. This top box over here is white, which means now I'm going to paint on this mask with a white brush, this black mask. And that's going to bring to view the adjustment I just made with the yellow. So I'm just going to go in here a little bit and just kind of bring some slight yellow into that image, not crazy. And then I still don't like this part here, so one way I'm going to get rid of that is go to Layer, New Layer, and I'm going to take my color picker tool, click right here, and I'm going to find just a very gentle, soft yellow. And then I'm going to go in here and just kind of paint over that section a little bit. In fact, I might just crop that out altogether. It's kind of overwhelming. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and I am going to go to Selective Color. I'm just going to play around with the greens. Oh, I don't want to do gradient map. So I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Selective Color, and I'm going to go to my greens and yellows and just kind of mess around with those a little bit and just see what I like as far as color. Actually, you know what? I kind of like this brighter green. I might do that and then just bring down the opacity of that layer a little bit. So I just go through and mess with these various sliders and just play around with them. I kind of like that color of green actually, guys, which is a bit different than what I did with my last image, but I think I like that. And then I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Selective Color. Actually, you know what? Hold on just a sec. Sorry, I already have Selective Color here, so I'm going to actually go to my magentas. And I want to make this purple and this flower stand out a little more. So I'm just going to slide around with these sliders until I get it to a purple that I like. And I'm not sure if this magenta, if it's really going to change too much. Let's try red. Yeah, that's a little better. Obviously, I'm not going to make these adjustments on her entire image, so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to hit Command I, hide what I just did, then take my brush, make sure it's white, and I'm just going to mess around with the color right in here. Just gives it a little more hint of purple to kind of go with the green. Yeah, I like that. All right, so I'm going to go to layer, new adjustment layer, and work on her skin a little bit. So I want to warm it up a little bit more and take some of the green out. So I'm going to go to new adjustment layer, and then I am going to go to color balance, hit OK, and I'm going to stay in my midtones, but I'm just going to bring up the warmth in that a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to hide that again by hitting Command I, and I'm just going to go in here with my white brush again and just paint on her face. So it's just going to add a little pinkish warmth. Now this is going to be way too much, so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, because we obviously don't want her to look pink. I'm just going to come over here to the color balance layer and bring down the opacity a little bit. So it just gives a little bit of warmth in there. So you can see, just add it a little bit. Then I might do a little on her arms. Now I like this green, but I think I do want to add just a little more warmth into the background. So I'm going to go to layer, new adjustment layer, and I'm going to go to levels. And I'm going to go to the green channel. Just bring that down a little bit. So it's not so blazing green. Then I'm going to go into my blue channel, and I'm going to bring this left side up just a little. I'm just going to mess around with this a little bit. So I like that, but I still think I want to add a little more warmth in there. So I'm going to go to gradient map and hit OK. And then I'm going to click this slider up here, and on the left side I'm going to pick like a warm yellow color. And over here on the right, I'm going to click on that little square and pick another yellow color. Hit OK, and then I'm just going to mess around with the opacity of this. I like that. I'm going to keep it at around 20, but I'm going to take some of that off of her face. So I'm going to take a black brush. Oop. Ah. I'm going to take a black brush and go in and just kind of paint that gradient map off of her. And just so you know, my brush is at 100% opacity and 100% flow. So I'm just going to take some of that off. And then I'm going to add just a little ray up here of sun. So I'm going to go to layer, new adjustment layer. I'm going to go to gradient map. I am going to, I think I'm just going to keep it on that normal, but I am going to, oh shoot, you know what guys? I actually did this wrong. Sorry. I have the gradient map in my head. Layer, new adjustment layer. Gradient. Oh, I haven't done photography and photo editing in so long. I'm forgetting where everything is. So I'm going to go to new fill layer gradient, not pattern. Hit OK, and then I am going to go to radial, and I'm going to drag that up right above her head. I'm going to click on this bar and I'm going to change the color. I think I'm going to go with like a white and then more of a yellow tone, like a sun tone. And actually, I think I'm going to add more of a yellow to that white. So we'll go right here. And then I'm going to drag that up again. I'm going to paint it off her head. So with a black brush, I'm going to go in here and just kind of paint that off. Okay, I think I want to darken the background just a little bit more. So again, I'm going to take this marquee tool, draw it around her, right click, hit feather at 400, go to select inverse so that whatever I'm doing will not affect her. And then I'm going to go to layer, new adjustment layer, curves. And I'm going to bring down the color just a little bit. Or bring down the center RGB channel just a little bit. Just adds a little more darkness into it. Okay, so I think that's it, guys. I didn't go into a ton of detail, but I hope it at least gives you some tools to kind of get started. And as you can see, we'll just do this really quick. Here was the before, and here's the after. So anyway, again, I hope this helps you just with a few techniques. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Also, feel free to comment if you have suggestions too. And again, this is the before coming out of Camera Raw and the after. So anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you guys subscribe because I am planning on posting more editing videos over time. And I hope you guys have a great day. All right, thank you.